I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, who will talk about equality in education, creating safe spaces for teachers and students. Hilario Benzon, who is the Associate Director of the Human and Civil Rights Department at the Center for Racial and Social Justice at the National Education Association in the US. Welcome.
Good day, everyone. I, too, would like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathering here today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I also extend that respect to their Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples and leaders that may be here today. Buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, my conference family. Mis hermanos y hermanas. I am Hilario Benzon. My pronouns are él, she, he, and I am first and foremost an elementary school teacher. I would like to offer my sincere thanks to the organizers of the Human Rights Conference and the Australian Education Union and New South Wales Teachers Federation for the invitation to join you in solidarity today. Thank you for the hospitality and graciousness you have bestowed upon me as a visitor to this lovely country. It has been simply brilliant and life-changing. So, I am bringing greetings on behalf of the NEA President, Becky Pringle, NEA Executive Director, Kim Anderson, and the over 3.1 million members and staff of the largest labor union in the United States, the National Education Association. It goes without saying that the United States has been facing and will continue to face challenging times. The hearts, minds, well-being, and joy of our schools, our children, our students are being threatened. Certainly for the LGBTQIA+ community, and specifically for the LGBTQIA+ communities of color. Conservative politicians, proponents, and thinkers have launched an unprovoked and distasteful assault on LGBTQIA+ students and educators. Despite these attacks, the threat of more damaging and hateful rhetoric and bigotry, we all must continue to fight. We must continue to hope. We must continue on a journey towards freedom, liberation, and joy with no exceptions. Freedom, liberation, and joy with no exceptions. So at NEA, I am currently the Associate Director in the Human and Civil Rights Department with the NEA's Center for Racial and Social Justice. In my role, I oversee the development of the Racial and Social Justice curriculum, which includes our LGBTQIA+ work, as well as our anti-racist and liberation curriculum. I also currently lead the NEA's response to the myriad of issues and concerns and attacks that are impacting our LGBTQIA+ members, communities, and most importantly, our students. After 20 years of service in our public schools as an education support professional, classroom teacher, school principal, I was a school district senior leader and adjunct faculty at the local uni. I now have the incredible honor and privilege of working with a brilliant group of staff members and leaders who are advancing racial and social justice at our organization and throughout our school, country. Advancing racial and social justice is not only a stated priority of NEA. It's codified in our strategic budget. It is at the core of all that we do and all that we advocate for. Racial and social justice is part of NEA's DNA. The vision of NEA is a great public school for every student. It doesn't mean every student that lives in this zip code or looks like this, has this race or this gender identity or sexual orientation. It's for every student. Ooh, I lost my place. Sorry about that. Our mission is to advocate for education professionals and to unite our members and the nation to fulfill the promise of public education, to prepare every student to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world. We believe every student in America, regardless of family, income, place of residence, race, ethnicity, religious beliefs, who they love, or how they identify, deserves that public education that is great, that's phenomenal. Every student deserves a quality education and a safe, just, equitable, and identity-affirming school environment. As educators from every place and across every race, we are committed to ensuring safe and welcoming schools where each and every student can thrive. They have the freedom to be themselves and become successful citizens in our diverse and interconnected world. Some politicians and extremist thinkers are attempting to twist and distort our commitment to our students so that they can hold on to power. But it doesn't change our purpose. We put our students first. We know our public schools work best when our families and educators and communities collaborate on what our students need and are focused on addressing the real issues facing our public schools. So we're focused on coming together with our families, our students, community leaders who really care about student learning. And so that all students of all races and genders and identities have the freedom to learn without the fear of intimidation. As I have previously shared, conservative politicians in our country, proponents and thinkers, have launched an unprovoked and distasteful assault on LGBTQIA+ students and educators. These attacks are being heralded by like-minded right-wing organizations like Fox News, conservative governors such as Florida's DeSantis and Texas's Abbott, as well as state legislators across the country. They are launching these attacks with the objective to create moral panic over LGBTQIA+ students and educators who support their students. And they're mobilizing their base with a potent mix of racist and transphobic tropes ahead of the 2024 elections. So what have we faced as a country? I'm sure this is not news for you, any of you in this room. Just last year in 2022, we saw over 300 discriminatory and anti-LGBTQIA+ bills introduced in legislators across this country. Over 300. 149 of these bills specifically targeted the transgender and non-binary community, with a disproportionate number targeting children who are receiving the brunt of discriminatory legislation. Anti-transgender legislation took several forms, including 80 bills aimed to prevent transgender youth from playing school sports consistent with their gender identity, and 42 bills to prevent transgender and non-binary youth from receiving life-saving, medically necessary gender-affirming health care. They're coming after our children. By the end of the 22 legislative session, a record number of 17 bills attacking transgender and non-binary children passed into law. 19 states excluded transgender athletes in school years, and 5 states restricted access to gender-affirming health care. One of the most notable trends in the anti-LGBTQIA+ state legislation is current curriculum censorship bills, which may include book bans, bans on discussing race in classrooms, and don't say gay or trans bills. So what do we expect in the upcoming legislative season in the United States? Only a few weeks in the 2023 season, we are already tracking over 327 anti-LGBTQIA+ bills. That's 327 already. We are on record pace as compared to recent years. As was in the case in 2022, the majority of these bills target trans and LGBTQIA+ youth. These bills are not only discriminatory, they cause incredible harm to an already vulnerable community, our trans youth. For example, just this past week, while I was in Melbourne, the Tennessee legislature passed 2 anti-LGBTQIA+ bills. House Bill 9 would ban drag performances from taking place on any public property in the state of Tennessee, as well as any location where people under 18 could be present. With all the struggles and ills in our country, in the United States, and in the state of Tennessee, the legislature chose to focus on drag queens and drag kings instead of addressing the real problems in our organization, in our country. House Bill 1 would also ban age-appropriate medically necessary care to transgender youth. Unfortunately, we expect Governor Lee to sign both bills into law very quickly. Through all of these attacks, we must continue to advance our journey towards freedom, liberation, joy, with no exceptions. So what is the NEA? our largest public service union in the United States, doing to advance our journey towards freedom. To counter these inhumane actions and secure our collective freedom, NEA is leaning into our core values to assert that public education is the right of every student. We're calling out bad actors for fueling divisions and calling for collective action to provide solutions to the real problems facing our schools. One of the things that we are doing, especially for our members and our leaders and our community partners, is creating message guidance so that we can have the necessary conversations with members of our community as well as our legislatures. This is an example of a message guide that we are equipping our members and our partners so that when they are talking to our elected officials, they're centering the most important thing, which is safety for our students, safety for our schools. One of the other things that we are doing is we know that we are not in this fight alone. We have created coalitions with a myriad of partners, as you see in this, on our screen. Some of these are local, but most of these are national partnerships. We know that it's going to take all of us, all of our members, all of our community, all of our supporters to undo the insidious hate that is running rampant in our country. Lastly, we know that our educators are some of the most trusted individuals in our communities. So at the NEA, we have gathered some of our most avid supporters and avid members who wanted to do more. So we trained them on how to speak out. And we equipped them with the skill, the courage, and the confidence to call audience with their state and local and national leaders to demand the rights of our LGBTQIA plus community. But there is still much to do. We also recognize that we have to do many things to create liberation for our members and our students. One of the things I specifically do with my staff is create professional learning and professional development. At the NEA, we have launched a multitude of curriculum that is available in person, but also online. So our members have the skill and the resources to impact the lives of our community, the LGBTQIA plus community. We also create resources, and any QR code you see on the screen, you can just sort of take a picture of it and you have access to it. We know that we have to create the resources that our students and our teachers need in order to make that safe and affirming space in their classroom, on their buses, in their hallways. But we also recognize the need for joy, right? And very often in this fight, we are so bogged down by all of the instances of hate that we don't stop to celebrate the joy that we have in our communities that we've experienced. And so one of the things that we're doing at NEA is making sure all of our members have access to stories and victories that we have won. For example, the NEA supported the Respect for Marriage Act that became law on December 13th, which ensures critical protections for same-sex and interracial marriages. It also repeals the Defense of Marriage Act, which is a quarter of a century ago was formally defined marriage as between a man and a woman. One of our members, Willie Carver, Teacher of the Year from the state of Kentucky, testified in front of Congress on the experiences as an LGBTQIA plus educator. And he lifted up his concerns and his even solutions to create more affirming and safe environments in the classrooms and schools. He shared, "We are not asking for special treatment. We're asking for fundamental human decency, dignity, and the freedom from fear, and the safe opportunity to thrive as everyone else." Lastly, we created NEA@justice.org to share the inspirational stories of our members who are fighting the good fight for our students, colleagues, our union, and schools. These stories not only inspire and provoke other members to action and advocacy, but they also provide the opportunity and hope and joy in the power of collective action, organizing, and unionism. My friends, our collective fight continues. As a country, as a global community, we must continue to move forward. The road ahead is daunting, The road ahead is unclear, but I know we have to find the strength and courage to move forward. Led by you, black, brown, white, API, indigenous, queer, male, women, transgender, and gender non-binary activists, we must continue to show up to reject many extreme politicians who were committed to dividing us, politicizing our classrooms, banning books, and pushing agendas filled with hate and fear. Freedom is ours to protect. The freedom to love who we are, who we want, to decide if and when we want to grow our families, the freedom to learn our true history, the freedom to move through our communities without fear of our lives and our loved ones, the freedom to thrive no matter what we look like, where we come from, or where we live. I'll end on this. I know it's very hard. As a member of the community, very often I see the injustice in my own life, but the injustice in my students' lives and the community that is around us. And sometimes it's very easy to give up. At these times, I remember this quote, and it inspires my fight, so I leave it and offer it to you. I truly believe, as a pessimist, as an optimist, not a pessimist. That's true. I truly believe that in the end, everything will be all right. But I also know, if it's not all right, it's not the end. So, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for your time. Courage, hope, freedom, liberation, and joy with no exceptions.